What's up, guys?
What's up, dude? How's it going?
How's it going? Welcome to the
Another day in
Vanguard.
paradise.
Shit! Fuck! I just spilled water on myself. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, wait. That's the perfect introduction to the Vanguard.
Yeah.
Shit! Fuck! I spilled something. God damn it. Okay, hey, what's up, guys?
Luckily,
We're
I
about
have
to tell
paper
you about
towels
the
right here.
news as we fucking clean up our lives and our general surroundings.
Oh god! All right. Welcome to the
Anyway,
stream, everyone. I'm
Gavin's
Gavin.
gonna be moist panted for the rest of the streams. Fortunately for him, it's something that he's accustomed to. But anyway, for the people who are just tuning in for the first time, I'm sorry. I'm Zach.
It's not always like this.
We normally put at least a little bit of a sheen on it. But anyway, we do have a good show planned for everybody today. But before we get started, as always, want to shout out our patrons, the good folks that help fuel our way through this capitalist barbarism as we are forced to try and feed ourselves. So yeah, shout out to our patrons. Right now we have an exclusive interview online for anybody who's a comrade or a Vanguardian. You're all comrades to us, but anyway, that's the tier and patron or Patreon. We talked to the great Dave Zirin about the legacy, the leftism, the courage of Muhammad Ali and what his legacy is in the sports world. You all right?
Oh yeah, no, sorry.
Oh, you were just making faces at me. I was like, am I fucking up something right now?
No, I was just chuckling. You're good. You're good.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, super great conversation. Love chatting with Dave Zirin. He does tremendous sports coverage from a left-wing perspective, basically in a league of his own when it comes to that. Sports is really basically dominated by bros with more right-wing tendencies. And it's always great to have a comrade in there mixing it up. And also shout out to our YouTube members.
Yeah, I just made this screen because it is technically one of our rewards if you become a member at the comrade level or up. So huge shout out to those supporting us on YouTube members as well. You can join by hitting that join button. It looks right like this. It's by the subscribe button. You get access to the cool exclusive emojis in the chat and all that shit. Plus that Dave Zirin interview is also available for our members right now. So again, if you want exclusive
shout out
content,
to Benke for that awesome ass profile picture of the man just chugging Mott's applesauce.
Oh, is that what that is?
I'm pretty sure that's some man chugging applesauce.
It is, yeah. It is. That's good shit. Good profile, man. But yeah, we're having fun with that.
I resonate with that man chugging.
I know the member program isn't quite as fleshed out yet as it should be, but I'm working on adding more benefits to that, adding more like emojis and stickers and stuff like that, trying to make it a more fun experience for you guys. In the future, there might be some streams where at first it's like live or member only live chat, stuff like that. So
yeah,
again,
if you guys ever want to do a Q&A members only, we
might do some shit like that. But anyway, I mean, obviously the best way to support the show, if you really want to, is just subscribing, hitting that like button and tuning in when we go live. But if you're really, really into the Vanguard, if you're really feeling the Vanguard and you want to help support us and fuel our future ambitious content, that is a good way to do it. So thanks so much to everyone for tuning in today. Again, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new. Really appreciate it. We got some good stuff to go over today. The drama continues with this whole Crystal and Sagar leaving the hill.
Talk about some bombshells, dude. Here we are yesterday talking about how it's like 90% probably it's an amicable split, and then there's like a 10% chance there was something legal going on in the background, and that's why they're just kind of keeping a distance from it. Lo and behold, the tables have turned on the likelihood, but Kyle, who was incredibly fucking caustic towards the Hill during the interview with Vosh even, when it was just first announced that Crystal was going to be leaving the Hill. He kept his mouth shut about it beforehand, probably in a gesture of faith and goodwill towards Crystal, who's his friend and colleague. But as soon as it became acceptable, he was hammering the Hill, talking about how Crystal and Sagar never needed them, that they were just bullshit managers getting in the way. And I was like, damn, Kyle, yeah, you're really a real one. You really are down for independent media. Of course, he was a trailblazer in this field, and I think it's important for people to remember that.
It's so true. On that note, a lot of people in this industry, they'll play the independent game for as long as they can, but then as soon as there's an opportunity, they'll sell out. But Kyle's someone that has never done that, and I don't see him doing that given the experiences he recounts in this video and the kind of language in general he kind of directs towards the corporate media sphere. I think he's pretty firmly rooted in his independent media world, and rightly so. I mean, he's one of the pioneers of this space for sure. But yeah, he definitely spilled the beans, spilled the tea a little bit when it came to this whole situation. And I cut up a bit of an abbreviated highlights reel for you guys because this was a pretty long video he released addressing the situation. But I wanted to, share with you the best moments, the parts that I thought were the spiciest, the parts where I really thought it got down to the meat of the issue. So let's take a look and we can react to the situation.
I have to tell you guys, I don't know how much of this I'm supposed to say. I don't want to get anybody who I'm close to in trouble, but listen, this is all out there for you to see with your own two eyes. It's something that I realized and recognized, and so I'm going to talk about it because I think it's gross. So, as you all know, Crystal and Sagar just recently left The Hill. They're going independent. The Hill, which of course is the company where they did Rising, the corporation where they did their show Rising. The Hill YouTube channel pulled down Crystal and Sagar's farewell video after they left. So they only left it up for what, 2 days, 3 days, something like that, before they pulled it down. They had the title for their video all set and ready to go. They had, the order ready to go. So in other words, their exit video would be the first video of the day for that show, and it would be premiered. And of course, when a video is premiered, and when it's the first video, typically that video does very well. So they had their title ready, they had the video ready to premiere, and then behind the scenes, somebody decided, let's change the title to something incredibly vague that has no reference whatsoever about how Crystal and Sagar are leaving. The title was like, Today on Rising or some shit. And they removed it from a premiere. Now, if I'm not mistaken, most of the time, if not every time they do a show, the first video is premiered. So they removed the video from premiere, made it a regular video, changed the title to something incredibly vague in general to make it sound like Crystal and Sagar weren't leaving. But it gets even worse. There were moments where they turned the comments off. And there were other moments where they turned the likes and dislikes off. So, listen, I don't know the specifics in terms of behind the scenes at corporate media, at The Hill, but there was obviously some sort of tug of war going on. And this doesn't take a genius to figure out. All you had to do was watch what was happening. Of course, I was watching every step of the way, and now, 2 days later, 3 days later, they pulled down their farewell video. So in other words, now they're trying to make it so if you tune into Rising and you see other hosts, you're like, okay, I don't know where Crystal and Sagar are. I guess they're just on vacation, taking a day off. Maybe they'll be back eventually. But I guess I should stay and watch the show. It's a very sleazy, underhanded attempt to try to dupe the audience into thinking that what just happened didn't really happen. But it gets even worse. They cut a brand new promo video for the show after Crystal and Sagar left. Now understand, Rising is Crystal and Sagar's baby. They came up with the idea. If they're leaving The Hill, the right thing for The Hill to do is very simple. The right thing for The Hill to do is to give them, the send-off of royalty. Hey guys, we love you. Just so you know, you're irreplaceable. You built this amazing thing, this amazing show on this channel and made it what it is. It's never going to be the same without you. Here's a cake. We're going to miss you. And you know what? We're going to change the branding of the channel away from Rising with Crystal and Sagar. We're not going to have Rising anymore. We're going to change the name of the show and have a new show because we can't replicate what you guys did. You guys are unique. You're special. You're your own thing. Nobody can fill your shoes. It's not possible. Instead, like I said, they tried to bury the fact that they left, change the title on the video, change it from a premiere to a regular video, turn the comments off and on, and then cut a fucking promo the day after they left. The promo trying to say like, hey, don't go anywhere. Please don't go anywhere, audience. Don't go anywhere. Don't be mad. We're one of the top news shows on YouTube, and that's never going to change. never going to change. It was Crystal and Sagar who made it the number one show on YouTube. Now they're not there. What do you mean that's never going to change? By the way, in the promo, they put a lot of people in the video who definitely don't want to be in that video. They put Shoe on Head, for example. They put Matt Taibbi. They put a number of anti-establishment voices in the promo as if those people signed off on the fact that, yeah, Crystal and Saga are leaving, but I want you to stick around and watch whatever the fuck else is going to, you know, take the time slot at the Hill. Now, I'm in a position, since Crystal and Saga are out at the Hill, I'm in a position to tell you guys my experience in dealing with corporate media behind the scenes. So Crystal and I, of course, we started the podcast, Crystal, Kyle, and Friends. So Crystal had gotten permission to do Crystal, Kyle, and Friends, and we had gotten permission to put the podcasts on YouTube. Well, even though Crystal had gotten permission to put it on YouTube, immediately after our premiere, the episode with Marianne Williamson, which did phenomenally well, by the way. I haven't checked the numbers now, but it's got to be over 300,000 views on that video. We were told that if we put the second episode on YouTube, there could be litigation. There was a lawsuit threatened. After Crystal had already gotten permission to put our show on YouTube, whoever's one of the higher-ups there took a look at the fact that we had a gigantic launch with over 300,000 views. And they did an about face and said, if you put that second video up there, there could be litigation. We might sue you. So after I told hundreds of thousands of people, this is how it's going to work, there's a lawsuit threatened. If you put that second one up, we might come after you. Well, of course, panic sets in. And, everybody's losing their mind. And I'm a man of my word. I told you guys it's going on YouTube. So guess what? It's going on YouTube. I'm not going to let some nameless, faceless corporate douchebag determine what happens on my channel when I've never even had a conversation with any of the higher-ups at the Hill. Why would I let them control what I do? So anyway, there was basically a standoff. And at the last minute, the higher-ups at the Hill backed down because I guess they knew that we weren't going to fold. And so we posted it, and nobody knew about any of that stuff behind the scenes. But it was a very tense moment. It was a very, very tense moment. And obviously, it was incredibly tumultuous for everybody involved, but definitely the most tumultuous for Crystal. Final thing. Did you guys know that Crystal had to beg in the early days for the Hill to allow her to put the show on YouTube? And then when later on, she had already gotten the green light to do Crystal, Kyle, and Friends and for us to put it on YouTube, after that first episode, when they threatened us, one of the higher-ups said, and I quote, "You're not allowed to put Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on YouTube. I own you on YouTube."
So yeah, pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, they also banned Kyle from being featured on the Hill too, which is another little tidbit that Crystal shared on Status Quo. It's fucking crazy, man. I mean, this is what happens when you allow the media machine to try and fucking get you in the web. And honestly, again, we applaud Crystal and Sagar for giving them the middle fucking finger, and Kyle for giving them the middle finger too, because it is scary when a fucking extremely large company threatens to sue you and could cripple your organization that you spent your whole fucking life building. Kyle was a goddamn kid when he started the Secular Talk channel. You know, it was in the back of his mind, like, what if they take my channel away from me? He said, "Fuck you, these are my principles." Same. So did Crystal and so did Sagar. So that across the board, that's a stand-up move.
Yeah, totally it is. And I think it's just completely disgraceful and disgusting and indicative of corporate culture and capitalism at large, the way the Hill has responded to this. Obviously, Crystal and Sagar literally built the Hill's channel from 5,000 subscribers to over 1 million. They really brought a lot of relevance and attention to their YouTube, project. And if it weren't for them, they still would be completely irrelevant. So it's absolutely insane to me that, like Kyle said, the Hill didn't give them the proper send-off they deserve. Well, not only is it insane that they didn't do everything in their power to try to keep them there, because as we can look at the numbers are quite significantly down in the wake. Here, I'll pull it up right now. We can take a look at what the numbers are in comparison
Emily
to what they were.
Jasinski's fucking radar for this morning was 17,000 views. That is not shit. Like a crystal ball radar, the highest crystal ball radar had 5 million views. Last month, she did a housing crisis radar, 2.2 million views. Like the numbers are infinitely smaller.
It looks like their highest viewed video from today is at 51,000 views, which is pretty much like the low point for the Rising videos when Crystal and Sagar were still on board. So now their high point is what, Crystal and Sagar were getting at their lowest. So that's just embarrassing. And as you see, some of the videos here have like 5.6K views. That's just embarrassing. That's in the toilet. And now, again, what's really insane to me is that the Hill didn't realize that, treating Crystal like this would unleash Kyle, but also Crystal and everyone in the space. Once obviously the tea is going to get spilled at some point, and now we all know. And now, people like me or you that might have been a little bit more willing to check out the new Rising with Ryan Grimm and Emily Jasinski. Now we sure as hell aren't going to. I already wasn't thrilled about it, but now I'm going to go out of my way not to watch it. I literally unsubscribed from the Hills channel today on both my YouTube accounts because I was like, fuck this. I don't approve of this behavior. They basically used two good commentators to build up their channel, and now we're going to treat them like shit and try to bully them. So fuck the Hill.
I can't say I was running to watch Ryan Grimm and Emily Jasinski.
Yeah, and speaking of
in the morning.
Speaking of Ryan Grimm and Emily Jasinski, I think they could take a principled stand here as well. I don't know about Emily. I know she works for the Federalist, which is a right-wing rag that I believe is owned by Meghan McCain's husband. But I know that Ryan Grimm is perfectly well off. He doesn't need the money from this new gig. He already has a job on the Young Turks, and obviously he's the DC bureau chief of The Intercept. So, I'm just saying, bro, it's not like you need the financial security that this new job is.
I'll take it one step further. This is scab behavior. Okay, look, if you have a colleague, somebody that you respect, somebody that you look to, okay, let's take politics out of it. Let's say that let's say that this only happened to Sagar at the Hill. Okay, do you think the Vanguard is going to get picked up by the Hill after something like this? Do you think we would tell them anything besides go fuck yourself? Like, I know Gavin feels the same way. We are extremely concerned, paying attention to the fact that we want to grow and reach the widest audience possible without ever compromising what the fuck we're saying. Like, if the Vanguard ever has a conversation with we want to put your stuff on this channel, blah, blah, blah. Hey, full stop. Before you even fucking talk to us, we're going to say whatever we want. And the second that you tell us no, we're off your network. Like, that has to be the rule. And we would not fuck with anybody that tried to take somebody like Sagar off, even though there's so many issues where we disagree, and I could try and scapegoat that way. But the fundamental principle stance would be, I'm not going to let myself be, working hand in fed by the same kind of machine that is going to treat somebody that I've worked with and been respectful with. I mean, they've hosted shows together. I mean, if I had that kind of a relationship, I mean, any of the people that we don't know in real life, but we've had multiple shows with, like, I feel like I would feel a moral obligation to them to say, oh, I stand in solidarity with you. Even if it's somebody that we've had on this show, like fucking Spike Cohen, who I disagree with on literally almost everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also really crazy. Something that Kyle got into more in that video was that basically, like you mentioned, Zach, he wasn't allowed on Rising anymore after Crystal, Kyle, and Friends, the podcast, was introduced. He basically was blacklisted from the show because they were afraid he would promote their podcast on Rising, which I guess they just saw as competition, So it's really incredibly dumb because, again, as both Crystal and Kyle have pointed out, this new media ecosystem really works as kind of a cross-pollination deal. Kyle brings his audience to Rising, and when he gets on Rising, he gets access to a whole new audience that way. And then, therefore, there's going to be that cross-pollination. Both massive audiences are going to check out the other channel, and everyone wins. That's kind of how it works. And for the Hill to just take this rigidly capitalist, squash the competition, don't even acknowledge it, don't even let these people on because they're going to, enlighten our audience to this alternative that exists. That's just incredibly petty. And like I said, just the most bullish bullshit capitalist mindset possible. But it's also just stupid. So, again, because now they have Kyle Kulinski unleashing this fury on them, educating his audience. And also, just to be honest, this is now, going to be helped. This is now going to help promote their new show even more because people are going to hear about this. They're going to feel outraged on their behalf, and they're going to say, fuck the Hill. they're going to unsubscribe like I did, and they're going to go pay the $5 or $10 a month or whatever it is to go watch Breaking Points, which is the new show from Crystal and Sagar, which is actually independent. So again, it's just such a loss for the Hill. I don't really understand why they figured this would be a good idea, because if anything, now it's just fueling people's desire to see more independent content, more corporate free media.
Well, yeah, and I think it really is. This is a flaw that I think that the new media world just hasn't grappled with yet. One thing that is clear to me, at least after watching this go down, is that the Hill executives, the management, whoever, they thought that the value was in the format, right? And that since they have that intellectual property, right, since they bought the name Rising, the radar style, all these things that had been, thought up by Crystal and Sagar, they thought that since they owned that they could just replicate it without them, right? But what really is crucial to this business, this whatever we're doing, this space that we're operating in as media people, is your personality, the way that you have your own insight, the way that I engage with you, and the way that you engage with me, and the way that we engage with this audience is far more critical to this show than the formatting, than the fact that we call some of our shit the Sunday morning news dump, even though I think that's a funny name. Like, that's not why people are clicking on it. It just, if two different dudes were here one day and we were still calling it the Vanguard, everybody in the audience would be like, this isn't the fucking Vanguard. Zach and Gavin are the Vanguard. And that's not narcissism. Like, if I turned on Rising and it's not Crystal and Sagar, it's not Rising. If I turn on Secular Talk and it's some random blowhard, it's not Secular Talk or the Kyle Kulinski show or whatever the fuck you call it now. But what I'm saying is that they thought that they could just replicate it, that they could just hire two new people that were moderately new faces and they would have the same success that they had with Rising. But one, Emily and Ryan do not have anywhere near the chemistry that Crystal and Sagar have, and that's putting it extremely politely, right? You might rather, but anyway. That is the most crucial part, and that's why people come back. You buy into the relationship that Crystal has with Sagar as a good faith actor. When you watch their show, you feel like you trust them. You feel like they're giving you an honest take on the news, and I believe that too. But that's why it's popular, because they are approaching these ideas from where they're at, and even that's the same case for Sagar. Sagar's approaching these issues from where he's at. That's why it's popular. I'm not where he's at, right? I'm not even where Crystal is, but that's why people like this shit. And I think that that's something that the media and the overlords have no understanding of, because they only know the black and white, the ones and zeros.
Yeah, like Kyle said, Crystal Ball literally had to convince them to even put the show on YouTube in the first place, which is mind-blowing. The fact that they thought it would be a smarter idea just to broadcast it to hill.tv or whatever, thinking that people would go out of their way to tune in there rather than just consuming it where they already consume media, which is YouTube. And that's kind of the calculation that has to be made, but it's just so obvious, and it's so indicative, again, of how fucking stupid these people are, and why it's ridiculous that, again, it's their content that is getting promoted in the algorithm at the expense of channels like ours, or a channel like Status Quo, or even Secular Talk, one of the big guys. You know what I'm saying? It's just insanity that it's these morons that are actually running the show and are getting promoted at the expense of the people that actually know how to do this shit, that actually have figured it out. And that
it also
kind of
reminds me, just to bring it back a little bit, when Nathan Robinson wrote that piece that you and I discussed a lot together. We didn't really have the podcast when it came out, but one of his criticisms that really rang true to me was why the executives at the Hill tolerated Rising being what it was. And one, it was a cash machine, and two, it did do all of those things where it provided like a balanced, perspective and a new niche for them. I just think that at some point they thought that they could get a much more diluted version of the product. Maybe they could find a Crystal that wasn't going to be pushing back when they said, hey, don't cover this. Or maybe they don't even have to tell them not to cover that. Emily's not going to be talking about something like Jeffrey Epstein, maybe. Or, maybe she will. Well, I think they did do a clip on that. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and if you go back and watch the early days of Rising, it was a little bit more of a standard news show. It wasn't so much of like a populist themed show. It wasn't until Sagar was brought on as Crystal's co-host and they kind of realized that dynamic existed, that they were both very hostile to their respective
parties. Who was the host
party.
Before Sagar? I never watched
I forget his name, but it was some guy that was not nearly as compelling, and he wasn't on the right, if I'm correct. So when they brought in Sagar to co-host a couple times, him and Crystal realized that they had this really interesting dynamic. dynamic and chemistry as one person on the populist left and one person on the populist right. And then the show kind of evolved from there. But in its original inception, it really wasn't the Rising that we came to know and love. That only developed as Crystal and Sagar's dynamic did, and as their politics became more pronounced, obviously with the primary going on, their first big video being that Andrew Yang interview. It just kind of became their obvious lane to forge, the independent, populist-minded channel. But that wasn't necessarily the Hill's intention. It just kind of got away from them and turned into this cash cow, which they let keep going.
Yeah, so eventually I think it just the Hill decided the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. They can't control Crystal. Sagar, I think, probably in solidarity with Crystal, was like, "Fuck this, I'll leave with you," because I imagine that you, like, for example, like, say that like we're at a studio together and somebody comes down hella hard on you, I'd be like, "Fuck this too," like I'm down to bounce with you. So I imagine that we'll hear more about this as it goes on, but. I'm so happy that they decided to leave the Hill, because that was probably my biggest criticism of Rising, is the fact that they were getting all of the bump from being establishment news, and then also like kind of skirting that independent news line. It's
speaking of independent news, I want to take a quick look at their new show. Yeah. This isn't the official set unveiling or anything, which they have yet to post, but it is a little bit of a sneak peek that they put on their channel, talking about some of this stuff and kind of talking about the new show as well. Again, this is not the actual introduction of their new show, which is kind of what I thought at first. So don't worry. I know it looks a little rough, and you can tell they're definitely getting started. They need to figure out how to properly stabilize their camera, for example. And it's kind of funny because you can actually hear the cameraman say like, "Go" at the beginning. But again, this is just like not an unofficial little teaser, but I still thought it would be worth taking a quick look at.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Thank you to the 40,000 of you who've already subscribed. You guys already completely blew us away. I didn't tell you. The last 24 hours have been the craziest 24 hours of our entire lives. Like, we woke up, we literally had no idea what to expect. Blew us away on the subscriptions, blew us away on the YouTube reception, on our channel, on our video that we've already posted. It's just totally crazy.
Yeah, so we woke up. The first sign that it was going to be a good day is we had published the sign up page for the premium subscribers.
Just to make sure it was all good.
Right, but there was no way to find it. I don't know how.
Yeah, I don't know how people found it.
But before we even announced it, people were starting to sign up, and we're like, that's a good sign. Then we launch, we announce on Twitter, we press send on the email that we had painstakingly drafted over weeks.
Weeks of my life went into this email.
And this is where we had asked you guys, hey, sign up at crystalandsagar.com if you want to be the first to know. And the email is not working. And MailChimp is telling us there's
we violated their terms of service.
Exactly.
They thought we were running an OnlyFans. I shit you not. That's what they put in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were like, you've acceptable use content. And I look at it, and it's like sex work. And I was like, what do you people think is happening over here? This is now the subscription that's being run. I don't understand.
I feel judged for my name right now.
There you go.
I think that's what it was. That's really what it was.
No, I'm sure. And so then Crystal and I are like, we're on the phone, right? Her AirPods are dying. We've been on the phone for an hour. We can't figure it. We're like, what are we gonna do? We have 60,000 of you signed up to get that email.
Yeah.
I promised you all you guys were gonna get it first. She's on with Constant Contact.
I was trying to figure out Constant Contact, but then the CSV file is too big. I'm trying to split this. You're trying to both talk to MailChimp and start up another service.
And so I'm on this chat with these MailChimp guys, and I was like, hey, I've already paid you $500 in fees, and this is ridiculous. And he's like, well, sir, we'd be happy to offer you a refund. I'm like, I don't want a refund. Send my email. God damn it, you're costing me money.
The low point was when they told you we'll get back to you within 2 business days.
I almost lost it. I literally almost had a heart attack on this.
So there's just a little bit of a sneak peek. They talk a little bit more and get into a little bit more about how they want to challenge the corporate media and all that stuff that they talked about on the interview the other day, the collaboration with Kyle and Marshall. So check out the full video if you haven't got a chance. But mainly, I just want to say go over and do give a subscribe to Breaking Points, because I do think it's important that we support this and make sure that it is proven to be viable, that leaving the corporate world and going into this world, independent, taking that leap is something that's financially viable. It is something that's doable. You don't just have to kowtow to the corporate platform for a bigger paycheck or whatever. And I do believe in the independent model of media. Obviously, that's what we're doing here. So props to them again. And I'm just hoping that this becomes as big as Rising was, and the Hill can eat shit.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck the Hill. But anyway, we did have another story that we wanted to talk about, something that caught both of our eyes yesterday that we wanted to talk about. Obviously, here at the Vanguard, big fans of Thomas Frank. Actually, Thomas Frank will forever be immortalized, or at least temporarily be immortalized. He is the subject of the most watched clip in Vanguard history, when he completely dismantled Bill Maher live on his show just a few short weeks ago. It was an awesome feat. But he's also been recently the brightest columnist to be featured in The Guardian. So for whatever weird reading habits I've formed in my fucking life, I read The Guardian every morning. It's like, I don't know why. Everybody has their news diet for whatever. When I get my normal cup of coffee news, I read The Guardian. So because of the columnist, previously Nathan Robinson used to write in there every once in a while. Boss Garson Carr, founder of Jacobin, he writes for them occasionally. So there's just some good voices in there.
Yeah.
And Thomas Frank wrote this incredible piece that I'm almost surprised got into The Guardian, frankly, because it was so
frankly,
yes. But it was so I guess prescient, right? And also what I love about Thomas Frank is this is a dude that takes full responsibility for when he gets something wrong. Like he's literally, I guess I'll do a better job of setting up this piece. He's writing about the Wuhan lab leak theory and how this is going to, if it becomes proven to be true, and even if it doesn't, even if it just looks like it's going to be proven true, which it does, based on the evidence that I've seen, and I think the evidence that you've seen, Gavin, that's going to be devastating again, for another devastating blow for the news media who completely botched it. And he is even willing to say that, hey, man, I'm not a scientist. I was reading these sources too. I was fucking telling people, no, you shouldn't fall for this Wuhan lab leak conspiracy, when in reality, there was a lot more legitimacy to those claims than was ever being tolerated or accepted by mainstream media.
Yeah. And this is an interesting, fascinating article because Thomas Frank does talk about how he was swept up in that culture. He admits that he was swept up in this tendency, this culture to just, go along with what the media was saying, which was that this lab leak hypothesis was all bullshit, that it was all conspiratorial, that it was racist, that it was basically just Trump's way to deflect from the coronavirus and America's poor handling of it. But it's interesting because I always thought, and I never really said this publicly on the podcast for those exact reasons, but I always thought that this theory just made way more sense in the first place than the zoonotic leap theory, which obviously posits that coronavirus started in a bat or whatever, and then jumped to a human from a bat to a pangolin. Yeah. But yeah, from the wet market. Meanwhile, the Wuhan Institute of Virology was literally 2 blocks away from that wet market, where they're doing gain of function research, which is essentially creating viruses like a SARS or coronavirus to then try to basically research how to, defeat it. So I'm like, there's this lab that's 2 blocks away from this wet market. Lab leaks are a thing that exists, that have happened before. So it's not like it's some crazy science fiction idea that some person made up. Like, no, it's an idea that's based in reality, that's based in history. And
also just common sense would conclude that if we're testing diseases, we can fucking let some out.
It could easily fuck up. And also what I always thought was interesting, and I'm not the first one to make this point, but it's like, the thing that was always used to bludgeon people over the head when they talk about this theory was, oh, it's racist and you're fueling this anti-Chinese sentiment. But if you think about it, what actually fueled more anti-Chinese sentiment in the early days of the coronavirus? It was all these people talking about, oh, the Chinese eats bats. The Chinese eats these disgusting live animals at wet markets. Look at this video of the Chinese wet market in filthy conditions with all these people gobbling up disgusting looking food. That was what fueled the racist sentiment was, oh, maybe if the Chinese people ate better, more ethically,
if they were cleaner,
then this wouldn't have happened. That was what fueled the racist sentiment, not this totally logical, explainable idea that, oops, it accidentally escaped from an Institute of Virology, which, by the way, was funded by the U.S., and which, by the way, Anthony Fauci was complicit in the gain of function research, basically restrictions being lifted under the Trump administration, as I understand it, which kind of allowed for looser restrictions, less regulations to go on under this highly controversial practice, which a lot of the scientific community doesn't even think is worth engaging in the first place for this exact reason, because oops, it escapes, and then we have the fucking disease with nothing to justified it, even though the original point was to try to find a cure in the first place. So, good job. Here we are. So, obviously nothing is for sure yet, and it's possible.
But it is evidenced, though, and just to add on to your point about Fauci, right, and how this is a dude that is trying to cover his own fucking ass. Like, I was neutral on Fauci for a while, but like he's lied so many times publicly. It's all documented. He was like, "Oh, I was trying to manipulate the public." Like that shit doesn't fucking fly with me, dog. You're a public servant. Your job is to tell us what the fuck we need to know, not to fucking manipulate me. Okay, but anyway. So that was the first strike for Fauci. But then there's been, and I haven't gone through all of the like fucking nearly 4,000 documents, but there was the big ass dump of emails today by BuzzFeed. And I was working today, so I haven't fucking figured out, I haven't gone through all of them, but I intend to go through the vast majority of them. And a lot of them show that Fauci was getting emails from people who have credibility, okay? People that he could be like, oh, this person is a fucking scientist, not just jagoffs like me and Gavin on the internet being like, yeah, there's a lake in Wuhan. No, credible fuckers that really know what they're talking about, being like, hey, this is something that we need to take seriously. Fauci not engaging with it at all. My opinion, what I would guess, this is obviously just an assumption or a conclusion I'm drawing. We don't have evidence for this that's airtight. Is that he's trying to cover his own ass for the exact reason that you just described, Gavin, because he was complicit in this. The U.S. was funding this shit, and we didn't want any of this to be able to be traced back to the U.S. government. And for that reason, Fauci didn't even just say, yeah, okay, fuck the Trump administration. I mean, we're doing this shit. Like, no, it was his legacy. And this is a dude that cares about his fucking legacy, guys.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's the main reason why it's been covered up so for this long, is because it's not just the Chinese government's fault. It's also the American government's fault. And that's another reason why I think the whole, this is a racist theory argument is dumb, because it's not just the Chinese government's fault. It's actually our fault too. And what it really should trigger is an international reckoning with how we carry out this kind of research and with how we fund it to prevent this thing from happening again. So, obviously this story should not be used to like, do like anti-Chinese sentiments or anything like that, or to ramp up a foreign policy. And some people, to be honest, some people that I previously respect and I still do respect, to be honest, but some people are trying to pretend like this theory is complete bullshit and it's only being pushed by the U.S. government now to try to heighten our tensions with China, to try to amp up the new Cold War with China, which obviously is a concern. I don't want tensions to increase at all, regardless of the origins of COVID-19. And even if China was totally complicit and totally covered it up, etc., I still don't think that's cause for escalate tensions.
I think the United States would have done the same thing.
Yeah, let alone go to war. But the reason why I think it's dumb that certain people want to label this as like the next WMD story, which I've heard tossed around, is because there is so much U.S. complicity, and everyone knows that. It's not a secret anymore. This story cannot just be used by the U.S. government to justify an increased militarized escalation with China, or to do anything against China, because it's our problem too. It's not just theirs, and that's what will be immediately pointed out by China and the international community if America tries to take an aggressive stance towards China because of this. It's our fault too, and that's why America had been covering it up for so long. So I think that some people that immediately want to jump to like, this is propaganda, this is the next WMD, this is just being used to justify like escalations with China. I don't really think they're looking at the full picture here, and they're not really realizing that the reason why we've dragged our feet on this for so long is because it makes us look bad too. And because it exposes corruption in all sorts of areas, not just the Chinese government. So obviously I'm not an expert on this stuff, and we'll be, bringing you more information. But one other point I want to make that Thomas Frank goes into here that I just think is so true is that he talks about how if this theory is proven to be correct, and if it turns out that, coronavirus did come from this circumstance, it's going to just ruin public trust in the media. And you can't fucking blame anyone for that. I mean, we already live in this incredibly conspiratorial culture, and Zach and I do our best to only report on things that are based in facts, based in reality. We don't really like to go out here publicly and get super in the weeds and get into conspiracies and stuff, simply because a lot of that is unfounded. I might have certain ideas and theories of myself, and maybe Zach and I talk about some more of that stuff privately, but I just don't like to make a fool of myself by coming out here and talking about conspiracy X, Y, or Z. But conspiratorial culture is going to explode if this turns out to be the case. because people are going to be like, why the like? I literally can't trust the mainstream media at all. I was told for a year straight that this is a lie, that this is racist, that this is, just Trump being Trump. These people shut down any discussion of this. How am I supposed to take them seriously going forward? And of course, this isn't the first instance of that happening. It's like instance number 5 million of this happening. You can't blame people for kind of like fractioning off and saying fuck the mainstream media.
Yeah, 100%. And just to go back to the point that you made really quickly earlier, I think that the fact that people don't want to look at this as, the United States is just trying to manipulate and raise tensions with China. First things first, 100% the United States would have tried to cover up any complicity that we'd had if we'd been studying this on U.S. soil and it had been a leak. So Gavin and I are not fucking idiots, okay? We're not here to simp for the United States. We're not here to simp for China. These are two corrupt nation states, right? These like we have to stop trying to assign morality to nation states, right? They have absolutely nothing but their own interest. It's like a corporation. What they will do, what China will do is what's best for the CCP. What the United States will do is what's best for the billionaires. That is what is going to keep fucking happening. So I just think that it's so stupid to try and be like, oh, China's being virtuous. It's like nobody's ever being fucking virtuous in this world if they're acting as a nation or as a sovereign state, right? What they're doing is they're playing risk on a global scale, and that could involve giving some kickbacks to some people and helping them out, but they're never acting in virtuosity. So I just wanted to say that one quick thing here. This isn't about like the China being worse or better than the United States. It's just a matter of this is where the fuck it went down. This is why people are tracing it back to China as a government. It doesn't make me think more or less fondly of the United States or more or less fondly of the Chinese government. I already know they're both corrupt institutions, right? That's like, we don't even need to have that discussion. But to go back to your point about Thomas Frank and the prescience of this is the fact that Alex Jones is probably one of the few people that actually had stuck to his guns and been like, oh, it's a lab leak. Oh, it's a So he's about to be able to go to his entire fucking audience of people to be like, I'm not allowed on Facebook. I'm not allowed on Twitter. I'm not allowed on YouTube because I told you the truth about this. And that is going to embolden these motherfuckers to a degree that we can't even comprehend right now. And you know what? They're going to have a lofty platform to stand on, and that is dangerous, guys. Alex Jones is not a trustworthy news source. He's a broken clock that was right once this time. You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't matter because that's not the optics of the situation.
Yeah. No, that's such a fucking great point. It's only going to embolden these outlets to an insane extent. And again, it's not like we can even really say like, oh, too bad. Like I'm not going to shed a tear for fucking CNN. They are fake news too. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to shed a tear for MSNBC. They're bullshit too. Like, it's everyone's loss is what I'm trying to say. No one wins in this situation because it only is going to empower these fringe outlets, most of which aren't, telling the truth either. And it's only going to, lessen public trust in what should be a process that's just about the facts. That's all this should be about. It should just be about where did this emerge from and how do we prevent it next time? That's what everyone should be concerned about. And that's what that's what role the media should have been playing from the beginning. And it's just so indicative of our media culture and of our capitalist media culture that's what happened and how this happened. And I just think that Thomas Frank makes a lot of really great points here. And also just on the point again with, is this being used just to escalate tensions with China? No, I simply don't think that's the case because Biden and the U.S. government is already in a massive sense. We are already groveling to China. Yeah, well, that, but we're also dependent on them, and we also have a pretty massive relationship with them that we're not going to fuck up. I mean, look what happened with like the Fast and Furious movie when what's his face had to come out and apologize for referring to Taiwan as a country. Yeah, John Cena. Like so many of our industries at this point are so connected with China, the biggest or one of the biggest economies in the world. We're not gonna fuck that up. Business rules everything in this country. We're not gonna ruin our trading relationship with China because of a lab leak. No. And again, we were complicit too. Joe Biden is already China's bitch. That's just the reality. He's not gonna start a war over this or start sanctioning them because of this. What needs to happen is everyone just needs to start actually trying to follow the evidence and figure out what the fuck happened. So again, there can be an international effort to prevent it again.
Yeah, I think that it is tough, right? Because there's definitely truth to the argument that we are escalating tensions with China. That's why there is the rhetoric surrounding the Uyghurs. But it's also true that we're not ever going to take it to the extent that it would fuck up our financial relationship with it, right? Like what I think the thing here that people are getting up in arms about is really just the United States government trying to control people's sentiment towards China, trying to like manipulate public sentiment and those kinds of things. Because you're right, the Chinese government makes all of the shit that we need to make our corporations money, right? They're the people that are working for the CCP, essentially, right? Those that we won't fuck that up, right? We, as in the oligarchic business class that controls the levers of power in this country. So I think that yes, we should be concerned with the escalating rhetoric around China, but you're right. It's also not. I don't think relevant to pursuing trying to find the facts surrounding the Wuhan lab leak.
Right. And again, people that are saying like, oh, like, do you want a war? No, most of the people that are talking about this are identifying.
Have you watched this podcast before?
Most of the people that are identifying this situation, they're first pointing the finger at Fauci, at the US. No one is saying like pointing their finger at China and saying like, oh, let's go invade them or let's go get revenge or whatever. No, people are pointing their fingers at Fauci, at the people in the US government that collaborated with this and made it possible if that in fact is the case. No one is trying to finger wag and point at one specific nation and blame them. No, this is the result of a collaborative effort, which potentially led to this. So no, that's not the case. And again, I just think it's insane the amount of contradictions, given the fact that the original theory actually led to way more anti-Chinese sentiment than this one, which just seems more logical to begin with anyway. So anyway, I don't know what else to say about it other than that it's definitely an interesting and developing story. We'll keep you guys updated, and I'm certainly interested to see what the ultimate consensus or conclusion ends up being, if there ever is one.
Yeah. I think that we'll keep following it here at the Vanguard, guys, and keep shooting it straight. Love that piece from Thomas Frank. We'd love to get him back on the Vanguard to talk about the implications of something like this. But
yeah,
anyway.
I would love to get him back on the Vanguard too, and also just check out the whole piece in its entirety. Obviously, that's at The Guardian, like we mentioned. But yeah, great article, and just a really intelligent and honest writer. One of the few voices that's unafraid to be honest about the corporate establishment and the true nature of the Democratic Party, among other things.
And reflect on current events in real time with an open mind. So yeah, good stuff. And thanks for everybody for watching the show today. It was a good chat.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching the show, guys. Really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Hit that like button to promote the stream in the algorithm, and also hit that notification bell so that you don't miss our next live stream. We go live almost every day around this time, but you won't want to miss it. And sometimes we do impromptu streams. So again, if you don't want to miss our live content, do make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and also hit up that link in the description. Go to patreon.com/the Vanguard channel if you would like to become a patron member there as well. We really appreciate all the support there, as well as our YouTube members. So thanks so much, everyone, and we'll catch you guys later.
Yeah, have a good night, everybody. Peace out.
Peace.